Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Tuesday, the 25th of February. And we are live. Yes, all three of us are back here on the Purple Acorn HR Morning Show. Good morning, squad. Good morning, Joel. Good morning, Danielle. How's everyone feeling today?
Morning. Feeling good. It's like warming up outside.
It
I'm
is.
getting rid of my seasonal depression. Anyone else really? Definitely.
Joel, is it still freezing where you are? Because it's nice here in New York today.
40 degrees, homie.
All right.
It's nice. Sunny.
Thawing.
Bad.
Hopefully we're thawing out. It's about time. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the HR Morning Show. We got a big one today. We are talking about Apple's big bet, federal workforce disruption, and interviews with Turk-Haynes, Mike Fitzsimmons, and Serge checks in to deliver the forecast on workplace romances. Ooh. So wake up. Let's get going with the HR Morning Show. But one thing we need from you guys, we can't do this show without you. Get involved with the comments here.
Get
Please
in the chat.
Check in. Let's do a check-in. Everyone check in. Tell us where you're at. Tell us how your week is going. We're going to get spicy here today. We're going to get spicy with office romances. We're going to get spicy with what's going on with Apple. We're going to find out what Tim Apple is working on over at Apple over there. We're going to find out about federal workforce disruptions. There's a lot going on. But first and foremost, Danielle, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. I'm excited for Transform.
Yes.
It's coming up. I am bracing myself to go to Vegas. It's a lot. It's like overstimulating as someone with some neurodivergence. So we're trying to just calm down. I'm going early, but me and Adam are on the same flight. So we're gonna get early. We're gonna maybe chill by the pool. No, but he doesn't do that. He doesn't chill. He just works.
No. Well, maybe we'll chill. Maybe we will chill a little bit. But
Okay.
and Danielle had a big conversation. She was like, "Why are you taking such an early flight? Why are you taking such an early flight to Vegas?" I said, "Listen, when you get to my age, you want to get somewhere. You want to make sure you get that first flight out in the morning, and you want to maximize your time and want to check in and do it right. We're excited. The whole gang is going to be in Vegas. Joel, Danielle, Adam, Evan, Ben, Melinda. Serge coming to Vegas?
Yeah.
Are we letting Canadians in the country? Is that what we're doing?
Of course.
After they beat us in hockey, I'm not sure.
That was awesome. I mean, talk about the NHL winning all the All-Star games. NFL is flag football. Basketball is just a BS game. No one cares about it. The baseball All-Star game is kind of a joke, but that was crazy. Joel, did you watch?
No.
Why?
Yeah, I watch one sport and one sport only, and if
curling.
You don't know that about curling, that's exactly it. I am a huge curling fan, and it got intense last week.
Is it curling or is it caroling?
Curling. It's curling.
Caroling. Christmas caroling. It's my favorite sport.
All right. Let's get to it. You guys know what time it is. It's time for. Wait a minute. No, stop on that. Wait a minute. I'd be remiss.
Oh, come on.
I'd be remiss. We are part of Purple Acorn. Find out more at purpleacornnetwork.com. Follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube, podcast. We're here every Tuesday. Guys, we are trying to hit the 2,000 follower mark. Joel, what's a pro tip? How are we going to get there? You're the social media maven.
Yeah, honestly, you got to ask for the follows. So that's what we're doing right now. Subscribe, follow, go follow us. And look, we put out so much good content. Like we literally, I feel like they put more content out on this channel than my own channel. All right. And that's a lot of content, but it's always quality. And that's the difference between my channel and Purple Acorn. It's quality content.
Clickbait free over here on Purple Acorn. I'm telling you guys. You guys, seriously, follow. Hit that follow. Get the notifications. We have the best guests, best content. It's huge. It's awesome.
Cue a bell. We need like a bell to, so we can
hit the bell. Subscribe.
Producer bell. All right, whatever.
Ding.
Next time. Ding.
All right, let's get into it, guys. It's time for headlines.
Let's go.
What are we talking about today? We are talking about Apple. Apple plans a $500 billion $500 billion for 20,000 research jobs. I mean, doing the math on that, that's pretty hefty salaries. What do you guys think? Is this a PR stunt? Is this real? What's the hot take? Let's start with ladies first, Danielle.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I think this is pretty targeted towards keeping the new administration happy, because we are all about domestic jobs at the moment and bringing the business back to the US, bringing workers back to the US. Domestic hiring was up last year. I don't know if anyone read that in the deal report. Thank you, Joel, for talking about that online. But I think that we're making a bigger effort for domestic hiring, and I'm not sure about the numbers. Like, is 20,000 a lot? Is it in the next 4 years? I feel like that's only, wait, let's do the math. It's only 5,000 people per year. I feel like that's not,
Uh,
is that much?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of tend to agree with you here. I think that there's a lot of politics involved in an announcement like this. You know, the big tech companies are all in bed with the government, and you know, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors here. So it's going to be interesting to see when the rubber hits the road. Are they really making those higher? And what are research jobs? And what are research jobs that are not being taken by AI by a tech company at Apple?
And like, who are they hiring? Like, who are they hiring? New grads? Are they hiring a kind of a whole like
Old
array
people?
of different people? Like, who are they hiring? Is also
What do you guys think in the comments here, guys? Get involved. Get involved. We're streaming on all these channels here. I know you guys are watching. What are your thoughts here? I mean, Joel,
in the chat, let us know.
What say you, Joel Algie?
Look, one thing I know about is my own industry that I recruit in, which is construction. And look, I will say that construction industry is booming because all of these companies that are doing new things with AI, whether it's producing chips, whether it's data centers, which are basically just warehouses with tons of servers in them, you got to build this infrastructure. And so a lot of those jobs I actually believe are tied into construction. What I will say is headlines are headlines, right? It's all to do with like the follow through with it. I had mentioned I did a post about this yesterday, and one of the things that I mentioned was I like the optimism. Like, I'd rather see headlines like this than Apple plans to slash 20,000 jobs. Like, we need some more optimism in general. So that's what I'm writing. I was like, more optimism, and then maybe other companies go, oh, they're hiring, we need to do the same thing. But it's going to come down to, are these jobs actually going to be result in any actual jobs, right?
But the headline doesn't matter. Like, I'm looking at the article now, and then in the summary here, like, so the headline is Apple plans $500 billion in U.S. investment, comma 20,000 research jobs. Great. So the investment includes Apple will work with Foxconn to build server factory by 2026. So Joel, to your point with construction, check the box here. To spend $500 billion over 4 years with U.S. suppliers, great. Investing, stimulating the U.S. economy, and then it says most products assembled overseas, but many parts made in the U.S. there. Okay. All right. So it looks like we're making some investments here. All right.
Yeah, and again, look, I think headlines are designed to get you to tune in, right? So I think you've always got to take that headline with like a grain of salt. And then also, look, if you're on the job search, which there are a lot of people, right? They're hearing about more continuous layoffs, even though I guess the data shows that it's nothing new. We've been seeing this. If you're on the job search, you read a headline like this, great. But how does it impact you as an individual? You're in control, right? It doesn't mean, you can take this as encouragement or you can take it as BS. It doesn't matter. You're in control of your own job search. So when I see headlines like this, I'm like, great. As individuals, it shouldn't stop you from doing the things that you need to do to land your next job, to make your next move. But all in all, again, I would rather see a headline like this than just the doom and gloom of the last 2 years. It's just been annoying layoffs.
Like, I'd rather see this than Apple cutting 20,000 jobs.
Exactly.
I mean, the headlines have been detrimental. I mean, you take a look at Starbucks cutting, Joanne Fabric's closing.
I know.
All these other. At
least they didn't say
Home
they
Depot
plan
and sales slump. That's
well.
Good.
At least they didn't say 20,000 AI agent jobs.
That's true. I will say though, like, to Joel's point about the construction, I've been talking about this more in my content about like how people really want to go for the sexy jobs, the tech jobs, the definitely not going into the government right now, but we're sort of, I think that like a lot of people, especially new grads, are very focused on these like hot industries and consulting, and they're all competing for the same jobs. And my argument is like, you can find similar roles and find really great careers at huge manufacturing companies, construction companies, industrial companies. And I'm a big proponent of like no ego, amigo. Like, go and work at that unsexy company and have like the sexiest career.
Look, I place project managers that are 28 to 30 that are making $150,000 a year with a pretty decent sized bonus. They got good 401k.
Good benefits.
They got a good truck. They get a truck allowance. So, it's easy to go, oh, well, I want that, 130,000 software engineer job that's from home. But look, if you're just going to get laid off every year, like I
go through the cycle.
I mean, talk about accounting. Accounting is up 75% as opposed to software engineering at 22. That's nuts. That's absolutely unheard of. So accounting's like now the new software engineer.
It's tough.
It's the hot job.
It's tough out there, folks. But chime in the comments, guys. Why is everyone sleeping today? Wake up.
I don't know.
Wake up. Come on, guys.
Wake up.
Let us know. Serge was in the comments. He said, that's right, Canada for the win. But
Serge. He's an employee. We need some outside comments here. Guys, what are you seeing out there in the market? What are your thoughts on this Apple article? Let's get involved here. So we're going to keep this conversation going after the show online. Chime in on the comments. We'll keep it going fresh. But now it's time for the event roundup. Let's find out what's happening. It's the event roundup time. Event roundup.
We got the event roundup with this is brought to us with Transform. Let's go. Let me know in the chat too if you are going to Transform. Let us know because we are going to be at Transform. The Purple Acorn Squad is going to be. We're going to run a live show. Hopefully, more details to come on that. So definitely check that out. But we got a ton going on with other events as well. We have the recruitment roundtable, and that is with our friends at JobSync. That is going to be massive, and we're going to look at what does and doesn't matter with Canada's experience. I can tell you one thing that does matter right away, and that is don't ghost people. But they're going to get into like the nuts and bolts of like what candidates actually care about, which is, I think, just a conversation that we need to continue having. And that's going to be a Wednesday, February 26th at 2 p.m. Eastern. Wait, is it Wednesday today? No, that's tomorrow.
Today's Tuesday. We do the show on Tuesdays.
I know. I just, when you have fun, time flies. And then we have the Lighthouse. We have the Lighthouse live stream. That's on February 27th. So check out that. And if you guys don't follow Lighthouse, go follow Lighthouse Research. We're gonna have insiders from our friends at Smart Recruiters there, Wilson and AppVault on the newest technologies and strategies that are working today. And you can look at the new research that Lighthouse has put together as well on what candidates want from employers today, which I think, again, is one of those conversations we need to have. A lot of companies are making big decisions because of the market. And, are we really listening to people? Because, look, we don't forget, okay? We don't forget when leaked audio comes out from the CEO, okay? We don't forget that stuff.
Jimmy Diamond.
Who? Underrated word here is integrity.
Ooh.
Integra, what?
Someone posted that on my post the other day about the candidate experience and was like, what happened to integrity? I think it was actually Phil Davis, a friend of mine.
Phil.
Like, whoa, like that is a great word. And I feel like people are sleeping on that. People be sleeping on integrity.
Look, it matters, right? It matters, and especially with obviously we just are seeing huge changes, right? With politically speaking, and it's like if we see when you're like flip flop on your views based on like who's in power, like
it's weak.
That is not integrity, man. That's the definition of not integrity. So anyway,
disingenuous is the opposite of integrity.
That's right. Whatever. Okay. Right? So we're going to have book giveaways, though. That's some integrity for you. We're going to have some audience networking, which I love. So check out the Lighthouse Research and Advisory live stream February 27th. And then finally, we have the From ATS to Insights, how top teams are harnessing greenhouse data and people analytics. And guys, these are the types of shows which you need to pay attention to if you're in
real intel, guys. This is the alpha right here from the source.
Yeah. And look. This is on Thursday, March 6th, 2025. All right. So if you are looking to up your talent intelligence, go from that recruiter that isn't respected to that recruiter that gets the respect, you need to check out shows like this, right? Do you like how I'm doing this right now? I feel like I'm like a radio DJ.
You're killing it.
Yeah, you're doing a great job, man.
Yo. All right. So we're going to want to join Madeline Lorano, who's the chief analyst at Aptitude Research. Definitely a fan of Madeline's work. She puts out tons of helpful information, real research, not clickbait. Not clickbait. No
realist.
Clickbait.
The realist of research.
That I'm gonna have to let her know that should be the realist analyst. Realist analyst. But look, you're gonna want to see how you can use analytics like through the process. And this matters because when you show up with hiring managers or leadership at your company, if you want to see the leadership, you got to care about the things they care about. And today it is all about data analytics.
Yes,
how do you use your ATS to put that together? So check out that event. That's Thursday, March 6th, 2025. I don't know why it would be 2026, but 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern time. So that is our event roundup. Any other events you guys are going to, let us know in the comments. We want to know what's going on, where we should be. We care about this stuff, and want to support our friends that are putting on amazing
what's going
events.
On? It's conference season.
Conference season.
Yeah, and we're excited. After Transform, we have a bunch of things coming up, and we'll start to tease those and talk about those too. But we have our first caller, a long time, not first time. I hear it coming through. Who do we got?
Good morning.
Wait, I thought we were going. I thought we were going to the Global Report. Lynn, what's happening?
Another day is happening.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I walked out my door this morning, and I did not have to put my winter jacket on.
Okay, it's a win.
Yeah, it's a win. It was nice. It felt good. It was warm. But then I look at the news feed and I see things about these mass layoffs. And we talk about the federal government, 95,000 federal jobs cut with more to come. Now, there's two sides of the coin here. I mean, let's keep it non-political here.
Yeah.
We have to say there is waste in the government. We have to say that there is bloating there. There are superfluous jobs. There's roles that we don't need. And if you look at it just like any other organizations sometimes get bloated. Sometimes there's duplicate roles. There's roles that we don't need there. So how do we take the emotion out of it? How do we look at it analytically? How do we take a look at it? Yes, no one wants to see people laid off from work. But again, these are our tax dollars. So are we just transferring people who are out of work now, supporting them when they're, in unemployment? It's just swapping dollars here. What's happening? Let's talk about mass layoffs and the immediate impact.
Yeah, that's the concern, right? So listen, it's not as though from a job market perspective, we were at a place where, we didn't already have a wealth of individuals who are looking for work. We're adding now, it's going to be over 95,000. It's going to be easily 120, 150,000 within the next couple of months, right? Entering the workforce, particularly in jobs around, there's the cybersecurity space, people who are, there's a lot of support roles inside the government that are then rolling out PM sort of roles.
I think contract roles are going to be cut too, which is different. I don't know if that's accounted in the numbers there too, like cutting contract,
Those are completely different, right?
Wow. So those are additional numbers on top. People that are companies that are contracted with the government too, that are being cut.
Right. So there's a couple of lenses on this I think we need to understand. One, the amount of people who are going to now be swarming the job market, right? That's concerning for those of us who have been, but many people out there who have already been looking for jobs. You're going to have a stronger competition. The second challenge is, and I'm going to say this coming as a former federal employee myself, I'm going to say this in its nicest way. There are a lot of people inside the federal government who are now looking for jobs for the first time outside of the federal government. Never had.
Yeah, that's a challenge. They're going to be shock and awe, right?
A different experience, right? There is the benefit for many of them is when they do land jobs, they'll probably more, they'll get some more funds for those jobs. They'll get paid a little more, but it'll be harder to get them.
Well, so let me ask you this based on your experience. Like, how does someone translate their work in the government to the private sector? Is that a tough conversation? Are companies open to that, or are there, barriers to entry?
I think so. Here's what I would tell you. I think companies are open to it. I think it is very difficult for people who have been in the federal system to understand how to articulate what they do in ways that non-government companies will understand. So the entire and it really roots from the entire hiring process in the federal system is very regulated and regimented, and it's not modern. Is not what I would call it.
No, it's antiquated.
It's antiquated, but there's also a real specific framework for how you apply to jobs, what you can be expected to do next, how you respond to questions. It's a very structured government framework that doesn't easily translate to how you go and look for a job in the real world.
But there's also some advantages too. Like if you're in a government role that requires certain security clearances, there are a lot of private sector jobs that do require those clearances, which make you elite, right? Which make you in high demand. But that's not all jobs. It's going to be a shock, right? It's going to be, a big shock. Now, on the flip side of it, private sector employers, how should they adjust their hiring strategies to attract and onboard government employees?
Well, I think the first thing they need to do, this is the perfect moment in time to pull out all of those experiments you've been doing around the lab around how to look at resumes and input data and be able to extrapolate or be able to imply skills that people aren't articulating that they have, right? This moment in time where this could be really valuable for you. If you are able to start to understand or use your technology, your AI, et cetera, to be able to extrapolate when somebody says, I'm a level 3 GS13 project manager from a global flight, right? If your AI should start getting really smart at being able to translate into that, oh, here's what that means. They're director level. They usually had over 15 different organizations that were operating under. Like there are some key pieces we can start to connect the dots on, but our systems haven't had to translate that so much in the past.
It's a Wild West right now. It's going to be an interesting. I mean, it's also a supply and demand issue. I mean, obviously, we're putting a lot of good folks on the unemployment line, back into the marketplace. They might have been lifelong government employees who never, ever had to look for a job. They just worked their way up the ladder, cross departments, cross sectors, and now this is brand new to them. And there's a lot of competition out there. It's scary.
There's a huge amount of competition out there. And the entire process for how you move from applying to a job to onto a short list and through the interview process and through selection is so dramatically different. The shock they are going to go through during this process, it can't be undersold, right? This idea that there's this perception within government infrastructures, I was against proprietary, but within government infrastructures, there are lots of rules and regulations, right? So you start to walk into a government job search and based on, because I'm a veteran or because I'm a military spouse, or because I've had a previous 11 job, I can automatically apply for a 13 job, right? There are these weird nuances and rules to that particular job function that allow you to apply to move to that short list faster, right? In the real world, that's not going to happen for you, right? So what is that? The things that I used to use as not preferential, but things that would allow me to be valuable or seen and moved into that interview process faster, no longer are relevant. It's going to be hard.
Do you think there's going to be a stigma, when Elon Musk puts out that the roles being cut are people who are, bloated roles? Do you think that there's going to be a stigma to a lot of people cut and they go to interview for roles and the company's like, you were cut for a reason because you weren't doing anything? Do you think that's a real problem?
I'm going to say something I had to stop myself from saying something completely inappropriate there, Adam. Maybe. My inappropriate statement would be, I think most people know Elon Musk is full of shit, so they're fine.
That's fine.
I don't think anything.
It goes back to the stigma, when Meta announced the layoffs and there was some weird PR going on out there that there were low performers. There's something, a similar stigma to it.
Of course it does. It has a horrible stigma to it. I think it'll be a double-edged sword to this. They will walk in with the stigma of, why was your role irrelevant? Does that mean you don't have particular skills for the future?
You weren't needed for a reason.
Needed for a reason, right? Or two, are you able to adjust to a less structured work framework? And there's a lot of bias about that. I remember when I moved from working civil service, my first outside civil service job was actually with Intel. And I remember during my interview process, I was in my 20s. The first question they asked me right before they offered me the job was, do you think you're going to be able to work in this environment because you're used to such structure? Now I can tell you, after being in the job and for like a week, I realized, the military has nothing on high tech infrastructure structure. SOWs and frameworks for how we operate, right? But there's a perception that if you work in that world, that your ability to be flexible, to be agile, to be able to make decisions quickly is not as strong. And I don't think that that's a true statement, but when people are going to have to.
It's a misnomer. So let's talk about industry winners and losers here. Who's winning here? What industries are winning?
Okay, well, if you're in the tech industry, if you're in the cybersecurity industry, you're going to get some talent glutting the market that is exceptional, right?
Yeah.
And it's frequently, by the way, where many of those companies would start to look for mid-level management employees already. So this is kind of going to open up that.
There's going to be a big problem to non-government employees because now you have new competition out there who brings a whole different skill set. So you're screwed.
Yeah, they bring a whole different skill set and framework, right? So, like, for example, if you want to, let's put it in the easiest term. If you're applying for a tech job in the cybersecurity space, and you have some experience working on government contracts, great. But if you're up against somebody who worked at NASA, it's going to change the dynamic there a little bit, right?
Oh, it's a whole wild one. And what about government contractors? Real issues there.
So this is the second piece. Government operates to a large extent using contractors or contract workforce to supplement. They are going to see some serious delays in the process for getting through the GSA contracting process. You're going to see contracts getting lost. That's going to have a long-term implication to the non-federal workforce. Listen, a lot of these companies are built off of the back of government contracts. Start pulling away those government contracts. You don't have them coming at the same volume. You don't have them happening fast enough. You can put more red tape around it. You're going to start seeing a lot of these smaller companies not be able to stand on their own 2 feet. So you're going to start to see the next wave of impact. So federal employees will come out first, and then the second will be contractors and contract companies who won't be able to keep their doors open. And so their employees will hit the market as well.
Oh, it's crazy out there. So what's happening in the rest of the world? What's UK, the EU doing? Are they following suit?
Well, listen, everybody's doing some form of re-level setting what their workforces need to look like, both in the outside and inside the federal workforces. The difference is how they're approaching it. So the UK and the EU, they're doing more gradual cuts, right? And they've actually put in some very structured retraining programs to help set up and be able to push and speed up their own industry. So, for example, in France, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there's been a lot of work happening through the French government around AI and a push to create kind of a real French movement towards AI evolution. A lot of their retraining programs for federal employees on their side have been moving into that pipe. Canada and Australia have public to private hiring pipelines already set up where they actually are filtering people, kind of connecting the dots for people.
That's helpful.
And in China and India, listen, they're just going to hire more government employees.
Yeah, so they're just gonna, and we kind of touched on this before, right? The employer strategies there. We talk about, updating job descriptions and the hiring process to adapt to employees coming over from the government. So there's a lot of change. There's a lot of change happening on different sides too. And then benefits too. That's a big one. If you're a federal employee for a long time, you probably have pretty solid benefits that you've been relying on for years for you and your family. And you might have to make a change. You might have to be like, wow, I didn't realize that I have to make that much of a donation, a contribution to my health insurance at a private organization. They're not covering that much at all. Yeah. That's a shock. No. Sticker shock, right? I think it's gonna be a lot of sticker shock.
It's a huge sticker shock. And I'm going to tell you from working with having a lot of friends who are still in the federal system, a conversation comes up about why my benefits are really strong where they are right now. Salary may not be as high, but I feel safe and secure because of my benefit infrastructure. This will be a big wake-up call for them coming into this new
Big wake-up call. So let's wrap it up here. And I want to talk about the future of the federal workforce and a shift toward leaner, AI-driven government. What the heck does that clickbaity headline mean, Ellen?
What is that clickbaity headline? It means what's happening to everywhere else. It's just going to happen in I would have said slower way. It seems like it's actually going to start happening faster. You're going to start seeing a move towards a digital workforce. A digital workforce is AI first, right?
Yeah.
It's focused on AI agents. It is only inserting humans into the process where there is no other option to be able to expedite and manage work through systems and technology. I think, there's probably dreams of making that happen faster now in the federal government with some of these shifts that we're making. I don't think they're going to be able to pivot that quickly. There's a lot of challenges they have around their initial tech infrastructure that's going to keep them from moving as fast as they want to, which means there will be a gap in services and the ability for the federal government to do what it thinks it needs to be able to do. It's the same problem, by the way, that the public sector had just in this last couple of years, where they said, listen, AI is going to be here. We're going to get rid of our workforce and move to an AI workforce. And what did we find out? They weren't ready to do so yet.
No,
right?
No, they're chasing the shiny object. They're not there yet. They're not prepared. They don't have the process systems, infrastructure, and they don't have the right people. Well, I shouldn't say that. They might have the right people, but they're not upskilled and trained on how to use these new, AI and ML tools.
No, they're not. They're not. And it's, it's not as simple as just, I have this conversation a lot now with companies and organizations. It's not as simple as just flipping a switch and you start operating in a new way. It is systems, processes, and people are all aligned and connected.
Yep. So, Ellen, just to wrap it up here, you've been on the other side before. What is that one key piece of advice you would give any recently laid off federal employee to really best focus on their job search and land somewhere?
Yeah, the number one thing I would tell them to do is go out and start looking at job descriptions and then take an honest look at your current resume and how you're articulating your skills, and make sure that you are doing it in a way that people in the public sector will understand. That is your biggest challenge. The way you wrote resumes and write resumes today, the way you write KPI documents, all the frameworks that you have to do to apply to a federal job, put that in the background, maybe stick it into ChatGPT so it can help you restructure it, but you've got to restructure and realign how you talk about what you do.
And start upskilling now. Use this downtime to upskill and learn the technology. Get involved, mess around with it. That way you're able to properly articulate it when you go into interviews and you sound more intelligent, that you're not just sitting on your hands and doing nothing. So, Alin, look forward to catching up with you in Vegas. Are we doing Vegas? Have you made a decision?
We're doing Vegas. We're doing Vegas.
Yes, we're in Vegas. Oh yes, we're playing poker. More on that. More on that to come soon. But we want to thank our friends over at Smart Recruiters. Thank you, Alin, and we will catch you next week for the Global Report, brought to you by Smart Recruiters. Take care.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Oh, a surprise, a guest that we are familiar with, Mervyn Dinnan. Welcome back. How are you? Where are you right now? I think you're on mute. Guys, this is typical intergenerational discourse.
No, it's not. I'm a long way away. I'm at an in-house recruitment expo in London. It's been going since 9 o'clock this morning, and we've had loads and loads of sessions. I've just finished a panel session talking about AI in recruitment, and I'm here talking to you.
I love that.
We've got some intergenerational stuff.
We do. We have a little bit of news for everyone, don't we?
We do.
Okay. Well, do you want to announce it? Or do you want me to announce it?
I know. Gen Z has to announce it.
Okay. Well, for anyone who's a big fan of our intergenerational conversations, which tend to spill over a little bit. They're too in depth to just become a segment on the show. We're actually going to be spinning off from X to Z into its own little podcast situation. So I'm very excited. Mervyn is going to be joining me every week, and we're going to be going in depth into very hot topics, including hiring, Gen Z and different generations in the workforce, and all the way to firing them. But hopefully some other things in the middle, and definitely some hiring trends and basically anything you need to know about what's going on in the intergenerational world of work. So very excited. Mervyn, what are you most looking forward to about this show?
I'm most looking forward to, I suppose, spreading the word. I did a session this morning about attracting and retaining the Gen Z workforce. And some of the stuff we talk about is what I was sharing. And it still seems like news to more experienced TA people and HR people. So I think the way we dig down into kind of, the differences in approach, differences in priorities. I think it will be interesting, and I think people will learn things, and I think there will be a much greater intergenerational harmony in our workplaces.
I love that. Well, next time you got to rope me in for that panel, Mervyn, so they actually have a Gen Zer to be speaking on behalf of that generation. But we love that. I love that you're, so invested in this next generation and helping us succeed. So I'm really looking forward to just getting your hot takes as well. As you kind of represent the old guard and the old way of doing things, but also like in a new mindset. I think you're very forward thinking. And so I'm excited for people to kind of experience our convos because I think they're great.
Yeah.
So the first episode is going to be dropping tomorrow, and you should expect to find them on the Purple Acorn Network, purpleacorn.com, on any of your favorite streaming platforms. And also, Mervyn and I will be sharing the episodes weekly. So definitely tune in. It's not one to miss.
No, I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Mervyn. Go back to your recruiting conference and we'll chat next week.
You have a great show.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
ERIN. We love ERIN.
Yo, we're getting swaggy up in there.
Can I get over my
Oh my
headphones?
gosh.
We're getting swaggy.
Are these sweatshirts?
ERIN for the
God.
win if you
I don't
need
have
those
one.
referrals.
Oh, it looks like I got ERIN ears. It look like I got ERIN elf sloth over here.
This is for special people.
Yeah.
You are the sloth.
I think we have one for you waiting somewhere, Daniel.
We
We have to ask Funkle Evan. We're gonna have to ask Funkle Evan. Joel, tell us what ERIN's all about.
ERIN is the world's a global leading employee referral platform. So basically, if you are looking to have a system to gamify, to be able to incentivize people to refer people into your company, you need to check out ERIN. It's super easy. It's a really easy implementation process, and it's going to really boost your recruiting efforts. And we know, especially in industries like construction, like we've talked about, healthcare, the trades, a lot of these industries, it's tough to find people, and your best recruiters can be your actual employees. So make it easy for them. And I know working with companies, sometimes if you ask them hey, what's your referral process look like? It's a big mess. So ERIN's going to come in, simplify it. So check out the white paper as well, because I think they had 1.1
now?
1.1 million referrals. That's million. Just think about how many recruitment fees that would be.
A lot. That's going to put us out of business.
Billions.
Shh, don't tell them that.
But big shout out to our friends, ERIN. Thank you, Mike and the team, and Evan over there. ERIN, thank you for your continued support. And everyone, please check out erinapp.com. We're going to link it up in the show notes. You can go to it now, get your own sloth, and find out more about ERIN. Thanks, guys. You have a caller?
We have Tara Turk-Haynes with us. It's good to have you.
Oh my God, good morning from LA, where it's entirely too early.
Early, and it's always nice in LA. So you guys got some good weather going on there?
Yeah, but you know what? We suffer for that because we would love to have more rain. We've had challenging wildfires, so the reason why everybody comes here is also the reason why we have fires. But we're good. Today's good. Sun's
You're
shining.
good.
No
family's
problem.
Good. Everybody's good. And
Friends lost some houses, but we're working through that and supporting them. So everything is getting back to something.
Well, we're here to support, and it's I know several members in our team were impacted as well. So we're praying for you guys out there. But why don't you give everyone an introduction? Because I know we met in person at RecFest for like 20 seconds, which was like best 20 seconds of RecFest, by the way. But why don't you give us an intro? Let everyone know out there, like what do you do? Who do you do it for? And we'll get into the convo.
I am the founder and consultant of Equity Activations. We help people embed equitable practices into their businesses. I was in talent acquisition for over 18 years. I still do it. Employee engagement, internal comms as well. Had a non-traditional path into work, first generation college graduate and corporate worker. And so my mission really is just to kind of help people navigate the workplace and eliminate a lot of the things that we're supposed to know, but nobody ever tells us. So super passionate about representation in all its forms and been doing that for many years.
Now, you did a video recently where you talked about the hiring process being broken. I think you actually said recruiting is broken.
Yes.
So give me some thoughts around that, because we hear that a lot. But what do you see, like, as far as that goes?
Yeah. So I got into recruiting in a non-traditional way. My mentor, Beverly Carmichael, was the chief people officer at Ticketmaster. And before that was Southwest Airlines. And she plucked me into talent acquisition many years ago from being an executive assistant. So I think an executive assistant is MBA 101 inside the companies. And I've been grateful to have done that for a few years before. So I've seen the business in multiple ways, and I have friends, luckily, where I stay very connected to people who are still out in the market. They don't really, they don't understand what I do for a living. They're just like, you hire people, right? So it's not
you post on Indeed. That's all you do.
Exactly. All my friends are not HR people. So I'm grateful to be able to stay connected to people who have a perception of how this process is actually going versus, all of us talking to each other.
Yeah.
And the recruiting process has been broken, I think. And I think the pendulum it swivels all the time. Like when there's a candidate market, everyone is just, trying to rush. How can we do better candidate attraction? Oh, we care about you. The candidate experience is so important. The moment that it becomes a job market in favor of the company, all of that gets abandoned. And
100%.
We ended up going 2 steps forward, 4 steps back. So, when I see things like, I said in that TikTok video you're referring to, a good friend of mine got a rejection on a Sunday, and the sender was do not reply. And I was like,
I know.
What are we even doing here? And I know from being on the inside, as you know, you can fix that, right? Like this just really comes down to, and it's not just recruiting's fault. I don't think it's the recruiter's fault. I think they're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I think companies laid off a lot of recruiters, and they decided if we're not hiring, we don't actually need, strategic operations and recruiting to hire them back up. And so now they're just slammed, overwhelmed. And so the basic pieces of a recruiting process that make a candidate really buy into your company and make your company attractive are gone, right? And so we're going to get these think pieces again when the market shifts again, where are all the candidates? There's no loyalty. Why am I being stood up? All of us, we can hear on the Reddit, forums, the nightmares that happen. And quite frankly, I think they're happening more than they used to. And I feel for that, and I want to fix that.
I think one thing people misjudge is the kind of where the blame goes in this, because like you said, the recruiters are often the face of this, right? It comes from the recruiter's email. They're the ones who are in the interactions, but in reality, companies get what they incentivize. And
100%.
I put together offers for recruiters, and never in an offer letter has a bonus been tied in or performance been tied into candidate experience. It's all about filling the roles and time to fill and these other metrics that they make up. Quality of hire. Explain that one to me. But it's like there's no incentive on, hey, we actually want to produce a candidate experience that is memorable and helps candidates. I know there's a couple companies out there that do that. But walk me through, like, businesses showing up for talent, employee engagement. That's obviously something that you're big on, and even equity within that. Like, what is equity, and how do we create good employee engagement? How do businesses really show up for talent in 2025?
Yeah. So I think that's really important because something I read that Lily Zing said earlier is that this is going to cost money, right? Like you can't do, and I think that's the problem is a lot of companies seem to think when you think about your people functions that you can do it on gift cards and dreams. Like you're literally just like, oh, we can build an employer branding program. We can do a
gift card and dreams. I love that. That is
it's like, here's $5. Can you please go make sure we can get like 150 new candidates for this job? It costs money to invest in your people across the board. And when you think about employee engagement, you're thinking about, and that's why I really loved, when I was in-house, I was a VP of talent acquisition as well as diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. It's the life cycle of the employee. How do we get, many different people from many different backgrounds to be really connected to the business? And how are we tracking how that happens? Are we asking them questions and then actioning the questions that we're asking them, right? How transparent are our monthly meetings? I'm doing a new resource called The Way We Build. Not necessarily newsletter, because I think we have a very loose relationship with what news means nowadays. So I don't want to be associated with that, but it's more about allowing people to have collective conversations, from the leaders to the HR people to everybody in between. Are we having real conversations? And I think when you have, and I put this out on LinkedIn the other day, is asking what's wrong with monthly meetings. And people are saying like, there's an agenda that the executives thinks is really important, that HR think is really important. And then there's the actual stuff that people care about that's not being addressed at all. So how are you translating the goals and the strategy of the business in a way that allows people to get on board and understand exactly what you're talking about? One prime example, when I was in-house, leaders love to use the word EBITDA all the time. And I said, there's going to be coordinators who go to this meeting and are afraid to tell you they don't know what EBITDA means. And they're not, and they're just sit there and listen to you talk about EBITDA for like 15 minutes and then they're out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and they don't want to Google it. They just you should be able to talk to people in very simple, plain, sort of language that allows them to grasp what you're talking about. It's very, these are low level things, right? These are things that we just don't have to continue to do just because we've always been doing them.
100%. And I think with transparency, obviously comes conversations. Yep. There's a lot of important conversations that need to really go on. So I guess what's your advice for leaders, for people who are people managers, and even for employees? Like, how do we start to have and bridge these important conversations about work that need to have? How do we actually have that transparent conversation?
Yeah, I think one of the things is really important is that leaders need to stay more connected to people across the different levels of the business. I think some leaders do like to continue to talk to each other. So there's this groupthink that continues to happen where then you start to think, well, do I need to do skip level meetings? I mean, if you build in a process where you are getting feedback in a way that allows you to make the business stronger, then some of that you don't really kind of have to, build in. I think that, really examining how your one-on-ones are going with your team. Are you being just a tactical and talking about projects, or are you breaking down and saying like, okay, from a professional development, what are you looking for? What do you want to do? How can, I'm married to a facilities person, and he always says, I'm training the person underneath me to take my job. So I'm always asking them, what do you need to know so that you can be a better facilities person? And I think that's a really good way of approaching that. And another thing I'll say is just, I think coming from a non-traditional background, I did journalism and writing, and I think asking better questions, any kind of course you can take to kind of understand how you can ask better questions. I know some leaders love to do like improv and, all of that because you want to get comfortable on stage. But I think you got to learn how to ask questions that actually get to the root of the matter. And I think journalism courses are really great for that.
I couldn't agree more. I think that curiosity, that caring, like genuinely caring about people, being present in conversations, which it's a challenge. Nowadays, it is a challenge, whether 100%. It's whether it's professional or like personal relationship, just being present and not. Yeah, exactly. For anyone who didn't hear, Adam just whispered in my ear, Joel doesn't care. But it's not even that. It's just really trying to be, I think, present in conversations. And it is something that I'm noticing more in my own life of like, all right, I have to be intentional about this. I actually have to put the phone down, put down all of my cares and focus on the person. And it's hard because everything in our culture is pulling us into thinking about ourselves constantly, and social media and all this sort of stuff. So
we view time as like a very unlimited resource, and it's not true, right?
100%.
Right.
Yeah. What about advocating for ourselves at work, right? Because I think I post about this a lot. You can work really, really hard, you can get the best results, and you never get promoted. So it's like, how do you actually go around like advocating for yourself, the work that you've done? How do you become visible? How do you form relationships which are going to move you forward?
It's interesting. I'm supposed to do a keynote in Wisconsin next week about
this.
Hey,
Wisconsin? What part of Wisconsin? That's where I'm from.
Menominee?
Okay.
Menominee. Yes,
awesome.
there.
Awesome.
I'll be there.
All right.
Talking to students about being better global citizens, and also talking to them about the workplace in general. Listen, I think there's a transition that we're not talking about, and which is why I'm a huge advocate for college degrees not setting us up all for success. We are not talking about how the workplace as like a map, a roadmap, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of students are entering to the workplace and they actually have no idea how anything kind of works.
Yeah.
And so how do you advocate for yourself in that way? And that's when we start having these generational conversations. Oh, they don't care. There's no respect. Well, at some point, how are we teaching them how that applies to the workplace that they've actually kind of never been in from a corporate perspective? So I think one of the things that's really important is understand your own, like strategically understanding what you bring to the table, asking a lot of questions, like really kind of understanding how things work in your environment before you go in guns a-blazing, thinking about like how you can fix everything. Because a lot of times when that happens, they don't understand that, we're recreating the wheel. But I also think that people who've been in the workplace need to ease up a little bit on people who are entering into the workplace. They grew up in a different environment, digital first, different kinds of work habits that have happened. So it's not an apples to apples situation. So how do we give each other a little bit more grace and have real, authentic conversations? So this is how it was when I was XYZ. So the first issue of the way we work resource, I break down what was happening in each decade when people were entering the workplace. So if we're talking about like, hey, this generation started in the workplace when computers just started, right? Or we just started using cell phones. So we became more accessible to our bosses, right? We, Blackberries and things like that. And then we started bringing our computers home. So how we understand, how people came together helps us better understand how we can work together. So you can advocate for yourself once you understand who you're working with. And that's the reason why we have diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, because we're trying to break these conversations down to help us understand who we're working next to.
I love that. I love it. I actually did a post yesterday about the trades, and it's actually stirred a lot of controversy on TikTok in like my little small world that I got there. But basically just said, I just said, look, in the trades, I've had multiple friends that have gotten into, HVAC, electrical companies, and then they end up with this boss who is basically just putting them down, calling them soft, saying that they're weak, saying that they don't know what they've gone through. And they've ended up leaving, not because they didn't want to actually learn the trade and work hard, but because they didn't want somebody yelling at them.
Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that.
We've turned into the get off my lawn generation without even understanding it. Like that's we're just using different words, but we mean the same thing when we're just like, you're this, you're that. Like it's the same as get off my lawn. Like
there's always a little bit of like, I honestly think it's understanding on both sides, but at the same time, it's like we just sometimes are not even open to. All you gotta do is go through the comments, and you just see like. People just reinforcing the whole point of the video. I think one guy said, I've been in the trades for 13 years, and if you can't handle being treated rough, then you're not fit for it. And I'm like, dude, what's going to happen when no one goes into this business and then your business goes out of business because you just wanted to be mean? Like,
right. Why do
it's
you want
crazy.
somebody else to go through? And that's it. I think that's one of the other things is like we perpetuate this idea if I went through it and it was hard, then you have to do the same,
Oh,
which is
exactly.
like a whole psychological issue. You probably want to, check some books out about that. Like, why do you want to harm people, and why do you want to perpetuate that harm to begin with? The thing about these generations entering the workplace is that they're making decisions other than that. They're not saying this is my only option. They're figuring out another way, whereas a lot of other generations just decided that we needed to stick through it.
Yeah. And look, information is more widely available as well, and I think people underestimate that. And there's a lot more different perspectives you have access to, which at the end of the day, you just didn't have that same access without the internet, without social media, without it's like anyone can say anything now. So which is can be good, can be bad, but it is happening. And well, anyway, look, I've loved this conversation. I cannot wait. Are you going to be at Transform? I believe you are. Are you at Transform?
I'm not coming. Oh. No, I didn't get invited to do a panel, so I'm just going to be over here just trying to do impact in other ways, but maybe next time.
Well, we will. I'm sure we will. We'll meet up again. It's been a great conversation here. Where can people find out about you? Where can people reach you?
Obviously on LinkedIn, but you can visit my website, equityactivations.com. You can sign up for my work resource there as well. I'm on TikTok along with you. Love all of your content. And let's just all work together so we can build a better workplace.
I love that. equityactivations.com.
Yes.
Tara, it's been a pleasure. It's so good to see you. And looking forward next time, we'll at least aim for like 2 minutes. No,
I know. RecFest is always magical. So, when Torn brings people together, magic happens. And I've been there every year since in the US. And so hopefully we can get a whole maybe 2 hours in. I don't know. It'd be nice if you have a lunch.
That's what I'm shooting for. Well, amazing. Well, we will thank you so much for joining. We'll have you again on this show. And guys, go check out equityactivations.com. Tara, it was a pleasure.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Good morning, beautiful people. Temperatures are rising across North America, and it feels like spring is in the air. You know what comes with spring? Love. And more specifically, office romance. So according to SHRM, over half of U.S. workers have been in a workplace romance. But before you get all warm and tingly, Joel, I'm talking to you. Let's talk about the HR cold front that comes with it. So 68% of HR professionals say their biggest concern is the perception of favoritism. So don't hook up with your boss is the best advice there. Going further, here's my advice for employers when it comes to office romance. It's pretty easy. Have a clear policy of what is acceptable. And obviously managers shouldn't hook up with your employees. That's just bad vibes. On the flip side, here's the advice for employees. You got to know what the office rules are. But hey, life is short. This is probably not HR advice. So I think you should go for it, especially when you're younger. Some of my fondest memories of my early career is having flings with coworkers. It made me look forward to go to work. But if you're going to ask anyone out, make sure they're into you, because it's going to be hell of awkward if they say no. Another piece of advice, don't sneak into the storage closet. There's probably a camera. Then the last piece of advice, this is especially for dudes. Please don't be creepy. And there's one last consequence. If you break up, it's going to be really awkward for you around the office. And you're probably going to have to quit and find another job. So take that in consideration. HR folks, lighten up and let's have those office flings. That's your HR morning weather. Let's get back to the panel.
Wow.
Spicy.
That's spicy.
So who's had an office romance? Joel.
I've had two.
Two?
Whoa.
and both did not end up well. Yeah, it was my younger days.
Swole Joel.
I dated a manager, and then I got inside intel of why I wasn't getting promoted as well. So
poor performance review.
No, I was getting good numbers, but I wasn't following believe it or not, I wasn't following the process, and they wanted people who would follow the process.
No way.
Yeah, it's crazy, but
wow.
Yeah, never again. That's why I married someone who isn't in the workforce. So
I received great advice early in my career. I said, don't dip your pen in the company ink, and don't where you eat. And I followed that advice, and church and state in my opinion. Because when it doesn't listen, if it's kismet, if it's meant to be, how do you get in the way of that? You're spending a lot of time at work for those who are actually, in an office. So I get it. There's chemistry there. There's things that happen there. But for me, it's best practice to stay away from that. Danielle, what about you?
Well, surprisingly, I've never had an office romance. So take that. I'm
surprised.
clean.
Has a guy ever asked you out?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Was it awkward? Were you into him?
It was awkward because I said no.
Yeah, that's a weird part.
Was it on a team Zoom meeting or how did this go down?
No, it was actually in person because I was an intern in college.
Ooh,
and
that you got to be careful with too.
He was an exchange student, so I could have entertained him, but I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. My career is too important.
Some great relationships, some great things happen at work, but I just stick with my best practice of
Adam, life is too short. Just do it, right? Especially in your 20s. Where are you going to meet people?
I feel you're just a wealth of bad advice, Serge, honestly.
Yes.
Well, I was going to ask, is it a red flag, though, if you work at a company? Because I worked at one company that had a great culture, emphasis on the cult, and there was people getting married left and right and having kids. So it's it was welcome to the family, literally. But is that a red flag if everybody's dating?
Matchmaking business. So what you missed out on. No, I think it's cool. I think it's cool that people meet in the workplace. It's gonna happen. You said, Serge, 50% of people have an office romance. I think it's naturally gonna happen. And you can't really prevent it from happening. I think there is definitely that whole awkward thing. I heard a story the other day of a friend of a friend who was seeing someone at work, and she was a recruiter and she got laid off.
Oh yeah. Laid off. Right?
And then he stopped seeing her. So
you can't ghost somebody at work and then you see them the next day.
It's a good talent strategy though. You're thinking about the future. Tough. Work babies. Work babies.
Work babies.
How do people meet anymore? How do young people meet? Obviously, there's online
dating apps.
That's getting a little bit sick.
People still go out.
If you're going into an office every day,
Love is blind, bro.
Guys don't have the machismo, the machismo. How do you say that?
Machismo.
The thing that makes you go up to a girl, that's basically non-existent at this point.
Well, you gotta
I think you're real cute.
You got to show signs.
Yeah.
You got to initiate a little bit because it is hard for guys.
There's this concept where back in the olden days, even before your time, Serge, the women used to drop a handkerchief if they wanted some guy who's around at a bar, let's say, and then they would basically that would be a sign for that guy to come over.
Let's
and
bring
so
that back.
The modern day equivalent of that is you stare and
like a creep,
a little bit
you leer at them
a little bit too long, and then the guy comes over.
Yeah.
Quick question for you. I think we were kind of screwed, in my opinion, when the show Love Is Blind came out. That was when I knew we were in trouble because I'm if that's if you're applying for that show,
but what about Bachelor? I feel that's worse.
I was trying to explain The Bachelor to my 9-year-old, and she did not understand the concept of it. But I was the biggest Bachelor fan. We had pools on Bachelor and Bachelorette.
Oh yeah,
guys would get together.
Yeah, I've been. Oh, guys get together. That's cute. I've been watching it since I was
cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'd like to hear what you guys think in the comments there. Have you had an office romance?
Are you
what
in a relationship?
Are you in a relationship? Did you meet your significant other in the office? Well, Serge, I wonder if there's data out there. With the pandemic in the last 5 years, I would have just assumed the numbers are down.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, Slack it like you slacking. Oh, let's go to.
Steven.
Pull that into the comments here. Pull it on screen here. He said,
friend zone.
Friend zone. That's embarrassing. Actually made me respect you. I respect you even more for being honest with me.
Wow.
Oh, man. Now you got to tag the person, Steven. There's no hiding.
Tag them in the tag.
I've friend zoned someone, but it wasn't at work, but then I got invited to an event that he was like an investor in, and he had me uninvited.
Ooh,
that's cold.
And then he went and dated my friend. It was, guys.
Oh, that is awkward.
This is just
awkward turtle. Awkward turtle.
Stories. It's okay. She wasn't into him.
All right. Well, that's
Serge. What about you? We didn't even talk about Serge. I mean,
he did say he said he was a player in his early days in his 20s.
The storage closet tip. Where did that come from, Serge?
Just the storage closet.
Yeah, no, I won't go in details with that, but think about it. Like early 20s, I'm working in restaurants, retail. This is like you work late, like things happen. Like you're all single.
Yes.
I think anyone that works in the restaurant industry, I think the percentage would be 100% of that they've hooked up with a coworker.
It's like Waiting. Right? What's that? Is that movie Waiting?
Parlez-vous, Serge?
Bonjour, madame.
I will say, Serge,
like Pepe Le Pew up there.
One of my relationships was at Starbucks.
In a bathroom at Starbucks? That's classic.
No, it was just like, we fell in love at Starbucks, man. We were baristering it up, and it was just...
You worked at Starbucks? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then the other relationship was at Wells Fargo. We, I was all about making deposits. Just kidding. But
all
seriously,
right,
it was Wells Fargo.
That's enough.
I'm opening up,
all
guys.
Right,
this is the realest recruiter opening
guys,
up.
Get involved in the comments here. Let's talk about office relationships. Yay or nay? What say you? Well, Serge, we are happy you brought this spicy hot take to the show today. We needed to warm things up to go along with the weather. What else, Serge? What else you got on your plate?
I'm all about the love, and I do want to call out. Last week for Canada was actually a really big deal. This Canada-U.S. hockey game, so I'm glad you brought it up. It felt
great
in Canada like we were fighting for our sovereignty. That's
if Canada lost, it would have been detrimental.
Would have been 51st state, baby.
Don't even say that.
And it was a good goal in overtime. 2-2 went into overtime. It was a great game. Emotion, everything. That's what you get about hockey, man. You can't half-ass hockey. Even when they do like the celebrity all-star games, they're out there, smashing the boards.
They are. Did you know I grew up playing hockey? I played fairly at a higher level, which is in Canada.
Really?
I think everyone plays hockey, right? So,
wow.
But I was pretty excited. But I do want to call out, I love America, right? Like, so it wasn't like I didn't boo the anthem or anything like that. We were booing the principle of it.
All right. Well, we love it there. Well, Serge, we want to thank you so much for this weather report. You can catch Serge here every Tuesday. He's usually here. Sometimes he phones it in. But when he's here, it's great, and it's spicy, and it's a hot take. So, Serge with the weather. We'll see you out there. We got a caller coming in.
Wow, it is Mike Fitzsimmons. What a name. I feel like you're like a celebrity. Are you a celebrity? Oh, you're on mute, Mike.
Yeah, an untrained celebrity who can't unmute his laptop.
I feel like that kind of it tracks. How are you? Where are you calling in from? I like your hat. What's going on?
Really, I am on the road. I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Ooh, I've heard there's some really nice spas in Scottsdale and Phoenix and Arizona generally.
There's some really nice sunshine right now for sure. So I'll take that.
Please don't throw it in my face like that. Thanks. Well, welcome to the show. It's really nice to have you. I'd love it if you could give like a 30-second, like, here's who I am. And yeah, for anyone who doesn't know who you are on the show.
Yeah, well, maybe a good start is that I married my wife who I met at work.
Oh, a success story.
Yeah. So that's a little background on me. But I run a company called Crosscheck that's in the talent acquisition technology space.
Okay, very cool. I hear that Crosscheck is really about data and delivering data and insights that truly matter for getting that quality of hire, effectively. And I would really love to understand from your perspective as like an expert on this topic of, we have so much AI being integrated into companies, and I'd love to hear what are some like common pitfalls that companies might be encountering right now as they start to try to integrate more AI into their processes.
Well, I'll tell you pitfalls before they integrate AI into these processes. I
Yeah.
just topical for the moment. I happen to know a couple of people. One that's a senior appointee for Doge right now, and I recently had a conversation with him. And I'm like, dude, are you looking at any outcome data when you're defining these things to make cuts? Right? How are you even navigating any of this?
Wow.
And so forget about AI for a second. I think that the world is still struggled with this topic of understanding, quality of hire, quality of the employee, the actual contribution of our human capital, right, to accomplishing the business goals that we hired them to do. And I
Yeah.
think it's a massive problem. And I know I think Joel kind of snickered at the idea of quality of hire, but I like violently disagree that this is not an important thing. I think it is the thing, and I think it's probably the most important thing that our companies need to tackle, which is to get their hands wrapped around this simple concept of how do we measure the ROI of our human capital investments? Because if we don't, right, the risks associated with that are profound. And that links back to your AI question, because one of the things we're doing right now that is fascinating is helping companies that are moving forward with AI replacing human jobs actually understanding, is it delivering better business results than the human would have delivered or was delivering? Just
Right.
think for a second in terms of where this stuff actually can go. So anyway, I think it's a massively important topic that we all need to take really seriously.
Right. I think there's a lot of talk about, how much volume there is out there. And so it's interesting to kind of think about, I mean, especially with all the government job cuts that are happening, like, should companies be focused on like how should companies focus more on that quality of hire over, without getting overwhelmed about the sheer volume of applications and kind of talent on the market. How do you navigate that? I'm curious.
Well, the first thing is they got to start caring. And one of the things that helped last year is LinkedIn did their report and said, all right, finally, quality of hire is the number one thing. 58% of talent leaders say this is now more important than speed and efficiency, than D&I, than these
Wow.
other things. This year, they came out and that number went up to 89%. I don't know if you saw the report they published last week, right? So that's happening, whether we want to resist it or not. It is happening where companies are taking this concept seriously. It's not about butts and seats quickly, right? It's about actually, right, the right butts in the seats, hopefully quickly. So I think that's the first piece. And so someone has to stand up and care. We did a research project with Aptitude with Kyle and Madeline over at Aptitude last year, and their original thesis, it was out to TA leaders, was that most TA leaders are going to say, hey, I'm not interested in taking this on. It's not my job, not my circus, not my monkeys, right? My job is to do, and the reality was it came out the exact opposite. Most TA leaders were saying, no, I want to drive on this. I want to be strategic. I know I don't own the metric per se. I'm one piece of the puzzle here, but I want to own it to kind of, to stand this thing up. So that has to happen. That's the first thing that has to happen. Is people have to start caring. Someone has to champion this within the industry, acknowledging that it's complicated. The water gets deep quickly. It's not a TA metric. It's a shared metric. All that stuff. But I think that's the first piece of the puzzle here.
Right. And how do you actually like measure the quality of hire? I was talking to someone yesterday about how when you refer someone to a job, you should like the referral bonus should be contingent on like how long they stayed and what level they recruited for.
So, and I love what your sponsor, ERIN, is trying to do. I will tell you that the data says that referral programs have an 18% lower quality of hire than the mean in most companies. So you're 100% right in your instinct to be challenging that. What happens in so many organizations is they literally are taking advantage of it. They're looking for the quick buck. They do not care. We have some companies like HubSpot, as an example, was a great one, who removed the financial incentive, put the dollars towards more D&I programs, and the quality of hire went up like 2x in terms of the hires that came in through the referral programs, because the only people you were referring are people that you really thought were right for the job. You weren't trying to monetize it. So it's a great call out, and it should be part of the puzzle. It's one of those things that when we start working with companies, like, oh my God, I never even noticed that, right? I had no idea. And it's an easy one to go address.
Well, I think it's a balance, right? Because there are a lot of influencers online and people who, like really have this influence over candidates. And there's this company that I'm friends with the founder, and he basically works with organizations to help them get more Gen Z candidates. It's called Petal. And he taps into influencers mostly on TikTok to have them share about certain opportunities. And of the last campaign they did with a Fortune 500, 95% of the applicants were non-white. So like there is actually a really big case for referrals and leveraging that. But I think everything, to your point, is it's all a balance, right? There's no one way to do it, but I think like if you do spread yourself across like multiple different methods, I think that tends to be like a good way to move forward. But again, I'm not a talent acquisition manager, so I can't necessarily say that is the case.
I think with all this stuff, we always say progress over perfection. Like you got to just put dip your toe in the water and start to get your hands wrapped around this thing.
Right.
And then you'll start to figure out where it can drive value for your organization and where it can't. We have some companies that are looking at the onboarding experience really deeply. They're literally correlating for sales hires who did the training and how that correlates to their performance early life cycle post hire, which is great stuff. It's all part of the puzzle. So again, this is never a thing about sort of pointing a finger at a recruiter for it's not about that. It's actually about getting your hands wrapped around how do we make more of our hires more successful.
Right.
That's actually what we all ultimately want.
Right. I love that example. I think it's really interesting because it's often metrics that are underrated and that we don't necessarily think about, but that actually can be measured, which is incredible. Like, wow.
You know what? You brought up AI earlier too, and the thing that I am completely freaked out by is so many of these companies that have blown up around applicant ranking and processing your job requisition based upon the resume and then deciding whether you should be eligible for a first step in a screening process. And they're trained on these AI learning models that are actually training on the prior behavior of that recruiter and the hiring manager. And I'm like, this is the most horrifying thing ever, right? In terms of how this AI is actually working. It's actually training against something that was riddled with bias in the first place. So there's all kinds of stuff, and this is where we're pounding the table saying, no, you can't do this. These models need to train on actual outcome data to make sure we're hiring for for possibility, not for our historical biases. So there's just a lot here, and again, until you get your hands wrapped around it, I think it's very, very difficult to push it forward.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. I feel like we could probably talk about this for like an hour. But I guess my last question for you is, I saw that you recently integrated with Ashby. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about like that partnership and how that's enhancing the hiring process for anyone who doesn't know who is Ashby. And then I'll drop a last minute question for you. Surprise.
All right, cool. So we have a pretty wide ecosystem. They were our latest integration. We're really deep with Workday and really deep with SAP and SuccessFactors. That's where we spend a lot of our time and energy on those larger enterprises. So and Ashby's a great ATS, obviously focused on SMB type of customers. So we'll work with anybody, frankly, as long as they have enough data and as long as they care to tackle this topic. One thing we have learned is that unless you're unless you're probably over 1,000 employees, you're probably not going to have enough girth in your data to actually drive meaningful results on this topic. But yeah, we work with all of them. As you can probably imagine, we've got 41 different partners now in the ecosystem.
I mean, I love the idea of like working with the source, right? We were talking about how the ATS often is trained on the wrong models and can really go awry, and lead people in the wrong direction. And so I love that you're working directly with these partners and trying to get to the root of the issue, which I think oftentimes we kind of gloss over, and we're like, oh, that can't be fixed, so therefore let's spend our time over here doing this other thing. But realistically, I think it's great when you address the root of the problem. So I love to see that. I also, my final question for you, I promise, and then I'll stop torturing you. But that is, I saw you have a really fascinating background. You've worked with some really interesting athletes and across like very different industries. And then I saw about 2 weeks ago that Cross HQ, you guys talked about Clay Thompson being an advisor and celebrating him. So I'm curious, I think all of us are kind of curious, how did that happen? How did Clay get involved, and why is he passionate about this topic?
So there's a couple of layers to that. So first of all, how I got there. So I run a venture fund that is basically helps professional athletes pool their capital and make more responsible investments in high growth private companies. And I do that with a partner of mine who's in the wealth management space. We identified a challenge because so many of these guys that have instant wealth have 17 people trying to take that wealth from them, whether it's for a car wash down the street, a restaurant, or some high tech company that they think they have an inside seat on. So through that journey, you got to know a lot of these guys. We've got a really deep bench of those types. We had 6 of them invest in CrossCheck early in our journey, of which Clay was one. For those that don't know Clay, he's an MVP All-Star NBA player who now plays for the Dallas Mavericks. But one of the cool things we did with Clay was he got injured in the final game of the NBA Finals 3 years ago, I guess now, or 4 years ago now. ACL injury. He then tore his MCL when he was on his way back. The headline was that he was out of play for 941 days. Right. So we launched a program with Clay, which is Project 941, where we committed to getting 941 people back to work who had lost their jobs for unfortunate reasons. Right. And so we're now on the 3rd year of that. We've accomplished that goal the last 2 years. It's pretty awesome. And we're focused on a wide range from the ex-incarcerated to, moms returning to work, to anybody that's kind of had challenging circumstances. So that's the connect with Clay. We're now bringing that to Dallas this year. He got traded, unfortunately, in the offseason last year from Golden State to Dallas. So we're bringing that program to the Dallas area this year, and we're fired up about it. But that's a long-winded answer to your question, but that's the connect with Clay.
No, that is so cool. And honestly, Dallas is popping off. More people are talking about Dallas than ever before. So I feel like it's really the perfect timing, which is it's great. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I think people can probably find you on LinkedIn, Mike Fitzsimmons. Michael. You will go by Michael on LinkedIn, I think. But it's great to have you, and I hope we see you back here soon.
Cool. Thanks for having me. Awesome. Enjoy the rest of the day. Later.
Great interview, Danielle. That was some good stuff. Some hard-hitting questions right there.
Thanks.
What a
I need
fun
to clarify.
show.
I need to clarify, though. I wasn't poo-pooing quality of hire. I was saying that most companies do not have it figured out. And to Mike's point, it's never been defined. The whole time I've been in recruiting, people have talked about it, and then you dig deeper, and it's like literally no one has any answers. So
there's no hard formula for that. There's no hard formula. And I've talked about it before too, and it's kind of a similar, like a baseball metric, wins over replacement, right? Like if you replace somebody or let go of somebody, it's more quantifiable in a sales role. You're bringing in someone who's performing better if it's revenue generating. Totally. Other roles are more subjective and you can't really get to.
Like
We'd
accounting.
love to hear your comments. Guys, this has been a fun show. It's been an absolutely fun show. We'd love to keep the good times going. So join us next Tuesday. We are back here. And then the following week, we're taking the show on the road. We will be in Las Vegas. And from there, we want to thank our friends over at ERIN. And guys, if you're not following along, please follow Purple Acorn. Please We want to hit that 2,000 mark by the end of the week. Yeah.
Let's go.
And if you want to hear more Purple Acorn, head over to purpleacornnetwork.com. Follow us on Spotify. I want to give a big shout out to all of our guests today, our weatherman, Serge, our production team, Ben and Melinda, and everyone behind the scenes. Thank you for making this happen every single week. And for all of our friends and followers, thank you so much for supporting our journey. Catch us here, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 7 on the West Coast. And do the math for wherever you are. We are HR Morning Crew, Purple Acorn. Thank you for joining us. Be good to yourself. Be better to others. And we will see you next Tuesday. Take care, everybody. Have a great
I won't be
day.
there.
Danielle.